Hello and welcome to our latest update. We're here at the Emergency Operations Center with the City of Calgary, getting the latest update on the 16th Avenue water main break. Joining us today is Mayor Jyoti Gondek. We'll be joined by SEMA Chief Sue Henry. Following that, we'll have Nancy Mackay, who is our Director of Water Services, and we have our drinking water expert, Chris Huston, who will be here as well. So we'll hear their updates and we'll take your questions right after. Thanks for joining us. Mayor?
Thanks very much. People in Calgary and surrounding communities were such good water stewards over the weekend. Water consumption was down significantly, and I can tell you it's because of all of your efforts. On Saturday, 440 million liters of water were used, and yesterday that number was 457. Typically at this time of year, our consumption is around the 580 million liters mark. So we have managed to reduce our water usage by a quarter. On the supply side, our pumping of water from the Glenmore treatment facility to various community reservoirs is working for the time being. Right now, demand is not outstripping supply, but it's only going to stay that way if we continue to not do any outdoor watering and to limit indoor consumption. And you can limit that indoor consumption in the ways that you have been doing by flushing a few less toilets and saving for a full load of laundry before you run your machine. Yesterday, demand for water was higher than supply for a good part of the day. At about 11 p.m., we started to see that demand decrease, and so we found ourselves in a good position this morning where we have supply of about 620 million liters of water, meaning that we have the ability to meet demand and also have emergency supply in case Calgary Fire Department is faced with anything. And let me paint a picture for you again about why all your conservation efforts are so incredibly important right now. Even with a slowly recovering supply like we have, we are not close to what we typically need at this time of year. And if we don't stick to using less water, the reality is that we may run out of water. You could end up turning on a tap and nothing will come out. That is the reality. It's not a scene out of a movie anymore. And I don't say this to scare people, but I think it is incredibly important for us to understand how serious the situation is right now. I'm also, at the same time, very confident that all of you will continue your efforts to conserve water and use less by doing the things that you've been doing. With that, let me turn things over to Calgary Emergency Management Agency Chief Sue Henry.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Calgarians, for making a significant difference in helping us conserve water. We are not out of the woods yet, but because of your efforts, we were able to keep up with reduced water demand as of now and as the work continues on the repair. I wanted to thank you again for everything that you've been doing to save water. As a reminder, some of the things that you can do: shorten your shower. Adopt the Navy shower technique and limit your shower to 3 minutes or less. Turn off your taps as you're brushing your teeth, washing your hands, or shaving. Reuse any water and catch it in a basin while you're brushing your teeth or other things, and use that water to flush the toilets. Only run full loads of your dishwasher, full loads of your laundry. If you are washing dishes by hand, use one basin filled with water, rinse with another basin filled with water so that you don't have to run a tap in between, and fix any leaks that you may have in your house. It's a great opportunity to do some of those maintenance checks. I also wanted to say a special thank you to Calgary businesses for continuing to do their part in reducing water. As a reference, businesses in Calgary use about 35% of the total water consumption, and our households use 65% of that normal consumption. Businesses are doing everything they can to save water while continuing to operate. But we wanted to highlight, this is why it's so important that you continue to do your part. Citizens make a huge difference in our water conservation efforts and to that overall water conservation. We also wanted to recognize the businesses and residents in Airdrie, Chestermere, and Strathmore who use Calgary's treated water and have been helping us by reducing their consumption. The Boil Water Advisory is still in effect for the community of Bowness, and we ask that residents in Bowness continue to boil your water, bring it to a rolling boil for at least 1 full minute prior to any consumption, and you will find water wagons still in the community of Bowness. As of this morning, the City of Calgary has helped the Bowness Community Association and delivered 8,200 bottles of water to help in their incredible community efforts of neighbors helping neighbors. Since the fire ban last week, there have been 109 calls about fire pits and other illegal burning activities. This is a bit of an increase in calls over the weekend, and we'd like to remind Calgarians that gas and propane fire pits are not permitted during a fire ban. Calgary Fire Department did attend 3 fires yesterday, but because of your reduction efforts, we had adequate water supply to put these fires out, and it's an important reminder that we need to remain vigilant as these large fires would require volumes of water to put out. On the bylaw side, since the event has begun, we've received 815 calls. 311 of those are for water misuse, and that's 31 new calls as of this morning. The officers have attended 669 of those calls. Of those calls, they've issued 214 verbal warnings, 176 written warnings, and we did issue 1 ticket yesterday to a contractor associated with construction work. We also saw considerable traffic congestion around the site of the break this morning. This is expected to continue through the week, so if you are able, please plan your commute. Plan an alternate way to get to work, consider working from home, or leave extra time for travel. Since the break, Calgarians have showed your support in so many ways, and we appreciate that so much. As a reminder for the health and safety of our crews, please leave them the space to work. We do our best to provide all of the updates and all of the good wishes that you're providing to us for those frontline crews, but please continue to provide that through 311 and don't visit the site. With that, I will pass to Director Mackay.
Thank you and good afternoon. I'd like to start off by thanking the crews, the engineers, the plant staff, and other dedicated staff who are working 24/7 to repair the Bears Paw South feeder main and restore normal water supply across our city. Also, a huge shout out to my colleagues in Mobility and Roads for the drone footage and our communications staff for getting that out there for folks to see. Lots of comments out there on the scale and scope, and I think it's been great for folks to see what we've been dealing with. In addition, I'm very grateful to the Calgarians and our local region as well, local businesses who've been so very patient while we are working on these repairs. Your actions to reduce water use is making it possible for us to do this critical work. Thank you very much. As Chief Henry mentioned, the boil water advisory remains in effect for the community of Bowness. We continue to work very closely with Alberta Health Services, and we are actively doing water testing in that community. A reminder, though, that we continuously monitor and test our drinking water throughout the city, throughout our water distribution network that provides drinking water to each and every community across our city. Please know that water quality remains high and it either meets or exceeds all the regulatory parameters. Our drinking water is safe to drink. As of this morning, some of you may be asking or curious about, there was a small break in Bowness on 32nd Avenue. There's approximately 21 homes that are affected by that break, and our crews are on the scene right now. This is not related in any way to the feeder main break. Small breaks are not unusual. Typically, we see 200 main breaks over the course of an entire year in our distribution and transmission system each year. Our system is over 5,000 kilometers of underground pipe that we often don't think about out there in the city. You may be wondering how Calgary stacks up with other large municipalities. We participate in benchmarking with our colleagues across Canada, and Calgary's main break count is lower than the municipal average that's reported. And so you're aware, our target is to get folks, when that occurs, back into water. Our target is for under 48 hours. And you can always get the latest updates on calgary.ca /water outages. With that, I'd like to remind you of where we are. I showed this yesterday of some of the work that we have completed. We are still actively in the assessing the condition of the pipe and removing the damage. And with that, some of the completions and timelines, I've asked my colleague Chris Huston, who is the manager of our drinking water distribution system, to provide more details on the repair. And so I will turn it over to Chris.
Thank you, Nancy. So yeah, I just wanted to provide an update on what's going on at the site, some of the work that we've done previous to this, what we're doing right now, and then what we can expect in the next couple days. There has been some curiosity about some maintenance work that we did back in April and whether that's related to what's happening here now. I just wanted to talk about some of the work we did back in April. Back in April, we did shut down a segment of the pipe. It wasn't this segment, but it was for routine maintenance to replace some air valves that are on that pipe. And air valves are just on the main to release air that gets into the pipe. So we did that work back in April and put the pipe back in service. We had a plan to shut it down again in December to do another segment. And then, of course, we had this break. And so we're doing some of that work now. So it's an opportunity to get some of the more difficult to access maintenance work done while this pipe is shut off. We're working on there's an access point and a couple more air valves that we've got to get done, and we're doing that in conjunction with the work that we're doing now. Do we have the picture of the pipes? Yeah. So there's also been curiosity about the picture that's been circulating of the pipe and the wires that you see in the pipe. It appears that the pipe is wrapped in wires, so there's been speculation of what is that about. So I just wanted to show side by side kind of what the parts of this type of pipe. This is called a pre-stressed concrete cylinder pipe. And so it's made up of it's got a concrete layer inside, it's got a steel can around that concrete layer. There's more concrete around that, and then there's these pre-tensioned wires that wrap it, which give the pipe the strength that it has. So that allows the increased pressure that we have running through this pipe. And so when the pipe has failed in the way that it does, the concrete part on the very surface is obviously gone in this section, and that's the wires that you see. The wires are what are built into that diagram that you see there. Those are the pre-stressed wires that give the pipe strength. So that's what you're seeing in this picture. It's all part of the pipe construction. It's not a previous repair or anything like that. It's just how the pipe was made and how it's constructed. So I just wanted to clarify that because there's been some discussion on that piece. All right, so what are we doing right now? So yesterday we removed a section of pipe. There's 2 pipe links that were being removed. We had to cut some holes, coupons out so that we could actually maneuver the pipe to get it out. So you can see in the picture, this is one of the main pipe section in the middle being removed. And then we have 2 additional pieces to remove, which are actually already out. They've just removed the second piece there. And then while this piece was out, we were able to get an inspection tool. So this tool has a camera as well as it creates a magnetic field when it goes through the pipe. What does that mean? It just means that we can understand the current structure or the current condition of the metallic portions of the pipe, which would be those pre-stressed wires and the steel can. So opportunity like this doesn't come along very often, so we wanted to use it to get an inspection tool in there. You can see that tool going in right now. It's completed its initial inspection. We'll have the information back on that later, and we hope we'll be able to show you some of the footage from that. It's not super exciting. It's a camera going down a pipe. Looks like you're going through a tunnel, but hopefully we can show you just so you can see what it's like inside the pipe. So what we're looking at going forward, obviously we got to analyze that information. We want to know if any of the adjacent pieces of pipe are also damaged in any way before we start closing this up. So do we have to remove another piece of pipe or not? So we're waiting for that analysis as we get the remaining pipe out. We're also we're building out the timeline for what this looks like once we get the new pipe in, and then we've got to start filling the pipe and get everything back in service. So we've got that plan drafted, and we're looking at what that's going to look like. Our main priority, again, is to return it in a safe way and that we can maintain safe and reliable drinking water. We're also, as Nancy mentioned, we're working on getting the boil water advisory lifted in Bowness. So you may have seen crews out. If you live in Bowness, you may have seen crews out collecting samples and doing some flushing. That's what they're doing right now to test the water quality. And then once those samples come back, we'll sit down with Alberta Health Services and decide whether we can lift that boil water advisory. So more to come on that. And now I'll hand it back to the mayor.
So everyone, you can see that we've got some pretty incredible experts here who are working hard to get water turned back on in Bowness. Lifting the boil water advisory is something that we're really striving towards. So thank you to the teams that are working on that. And remember, in closing, that outdoor water restrictions remain in place. And doing the things that you have been doing, like taking shorter showers, not rinsing your plates before you put them in the dishwasher, and not flushing every time you use the toilet. Those things are all working very well right now. And a very big thank you to the water teams at the city for getting information about demand and supply out early in the day. And I also very much appreciate the fact that the communications team has then been able to take this information and prepare visuals for the public. We made a commitment to get more information out to Calgarians on a regular basis, and today's graphics and drone footage are absolutely an example that we're moving in the right direction. To the crews on site, your efforts are around the clock and they're welcomed, recognized, and appreciated. And my message to everyone who's working on this from the City of Calgary, as well as all of the residents in our city and surrounding areas, that message is the same. Your efforts are seen and they're greatly valued. With that, we'll turn it to questions. I'll go to Sherry to moderate that.
Any questions?
Yeah. Is there any consideration for any local businesses for compensation, much like the Margaret businesses went through?
I think the business and local economy team will be keeping a close eye on this. We haven't made any decisions in that regard. However, I will say the best thing we can do for local businesses is go and visit them. Do your shopping there, grab a coffee there, grab a pastry. There is a game store, go and check it out. Bowness needs some love right now, especially the businesses that everyone thinks might be closed. Many of them are open and they're very active. So in addition to supporting the residents with your donations of water, please keep frequenting the businesses in Bowness.
Scott.
I have a few questions for the mayor or for Chief Henry. Is it possible to get a partial reopening for traffic on 16, or does that need to stay closed?
So the crews are working as hard as they can to make sure that the access to the site is maintained in a safe fashion for those crews that are working on site, as well as that we do the assessments of the roadways. So the team is working on that, and as soon as there's an update on when the road could open, we will provide that, but it remains closed at this point in time.
Follow-up?
I do have some water questions. I don't know if answer Chris.
Yes.
In terms of, do you now know the amount of pipe, I guess, that is damaged and needs to be removed? I know Chris talked about the inspection that needs to go on, but what's the damaged section that you know will need to come up?
So the question was, what's the portion of the pipe that is damaged? And that is a question for Chris Huston, our manager of drinking water distribution. I'll pass it over to Chris.
Yeah, so we're quite certain of the one section of pipe that has the hole in it. The adjacent pipe indicated that it had some of those pre-stressed wires had broken in that pipe, so that's why we removed that as a precaution. We don't have the results back from the inspection yet, so we don't know what the further condition is. There's no visual evidence that there's additional damage. That's why we brought in this tool, so it can see inside the pipe.
And just on that vein, in terms of the inspection, how far in each direction of the pipe do you look in a situation like this? Do you go 50 meters, 100 meters?
Yeah, good question. So the question is, how far do we go on either side of the pipe in this initial inspection? I believe we were able to go 100 meters one direction and 200 meters the other direction.
Any other questions?
Probably for the mayor. What would be the message to Calgarians? We've gotten a lot of emails to our users saying they're seeing city crews out watering trees, golf courses with sprinklers on, while residents are facing fines if they do something similar. So what would you speak to Calgarians who may be seeing city crews doing some of that watering right now?
Yeah, I really appreciate the question about why are city crews continuing to water newly planted trees, why are golf courses continuing to water. I can tell you that that is not treated water that's being used. It is not coming from the water treatment plant. It is not water that we use for consumption in our homes. That water is recycled water, if you will. It is not potable. And so the golf courses, for quite some time now, have been using their sprinkler systems in a manner that does not draw on our water supply. And the trucks that you see that are out watering trees, they are not using potable water either.
Follow-up? Anyone else?
Yeah, Sue Henry. Increasing volume of calls to 311, and how much of an increase?
I don't have the actual numbers. I will follow up with you on that, but we know our 311 wait time this morning was about 20 minutes, which is very similar to what we saw yesterday. So we're very thankful to our folks at 311 that are helping us manage that additional volume, but I will get you a specific number.
And on enforcement, you did write a ticket then. So
Yes.
was this a repeat? I know privacy and all that, a contractor. Was it a repeat offender, or how did that go down?
So what we know at this time is it was a contractor that was coring concrete and pressure washing, and as a result, we did issue that ticket.
That's all I got. Thanks so much.
Anyone else?
So over the weekend we were given a timeline of around 5 to 7 days. Is there any update to that timeline for completion?
The question was around updated timeline. As you heard from my colleague, Chris Huston here, we need that information that's coming in today in order to finalize that. So we are still in that time frame of a minimum from a couple days ago. But again, I really appreciate that we want more details. We're working on that with the information and the assessment that we're doing right now.
Anyone else? Oh, Scott Dipple, one last question. Chief Henry close.
Chris. In terms
Chris?
of the cause of the rupture, has that been narrowed down at all at this point? We don't have a conclusive answer, but.
I definitely, I want to appreciate that people want to, I do appreciate the question was around the cause. We are doing a lot of investigation and taking steps in that regard. The focus now for us is truly on restoring the supply that we have for the city, and that's where our efforts are focused. And of course, we're taking all that information, and that will be something moving forward, absolutely.
Just wondered if, in terms of actually getting to the damaged area, if that reveals anything or not in a situation like this.
So for those that went to, we had a team of engineers go to do the inspection. We don't have that engineering report back yet to the cause, but being able to get down there and actually see the pipe and see its condition certainly helped them in their investigation, but I don't have the answer back on the actual cause yet.
And related to that, Chris,
Yeah.
is it even possible that given the groundwater contamination in that area that we saw from the 2013 flood, is something like that still a factor 11 years later?
It wouldn't be for this type of pipe, no. It wouldn't be a contributing factor, no.
Clarifying question from Adam McVicker.
Yeah, just what was mentioned there about the water testing in Bowness. I mean, are we looking at potentially a situation where that could be lifted depending on the water quality prior to this pipe being fixed, or is that contingent on the water flowing through that new pipeline repairs?
They're two separate things. So the answer to the first question is yes, it could be lifted before that time.
And so, like, what are we looking for in these water tests right now that might be different? Like, when do we expect to see some of those results?
Yeah, so good question. The main parameters that we're looking for when we test the water, we're looking for coliform bacteria, E. coli, those types of things. So we have a laboratory, certified laboratory that does all that testing for us. And when we get those results back, we'll sit down with Alberta Health Services, review all those results, and then make a decision on whether we can lift the boil water advisory.
Just add to that too. These are the same parameters that we use every day all over the city, that we check the water to make sure it meets or exceeds water quality. So nothing different. It is specific tests that we do and work with our colleagues at Alberta Health.
Nancy, we've got one more from CBC.
Oh,
Just to clarify, in terms of the water testing, Nancy, I know that
So the question that you've asked has to do with understanding that the difference between getting the pipe back up and the boil water lifted, as Chris mentioned, are two separate things. And again, once we get more information, it allows us to understand what we will need to put in place, and in terms to flush that line, where that flushed water is going, what the impacts are. That is some of the work that we will sit down with Alberta Health Services explaining that plan with all the information that we've got. It's not out of the realm of that we might need to do that. We want to minimize, get the water service back up, protect public health, and if we need to protect public health at any time, we would issue a boil water advisory in addition. Our hope is not to do that, but again, we need more information to fully understand our approach.
Thank you to all Calgarians, all businesses, and all of our regional partners. I think we've proven over the last week or so that every single drop counts, and that when we all work together towards a common goal, we can make a huge difference. I also want to say that Calgary has an incredible team of people that are working on this 24/7. They're working around the clock, they're working in stressful conditions, and they've got the weight of the city on their shoulder, and they are giving it everything that they can, and I am so proud of the teams from the City of Calgary.